A country that once flooded the world with weapons in World War II is now facing an ammunition crisis. The United States built its global power on two things: the ability to outproduce weapons at an unmatched scale during the World War II, and a defense industry that later became one of the biggest exporters of the military power in the entire world. But today, the United States is facing an uncomfortable reality: a potential shortage of ammunition in a two-front war against Iran and a possible China-Taiwan conflict. This ammunition crisis for the US is not appearing all of a sudden overnight. In many ways, it all began in February 2022, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And as the NATO ally, the United States became Ukraine's largest military arms provider. For more than 3 years, America continuously transferred weapons from its own stockpiles to help Ukraine counter Russian attacks. Millions of artillery shells, Patriot interceptors, ATACMS missiles, air defense systems, precision-guided munitions. It all was transferred by the United States to the Ukraine. At first, the Pentagon believed that the US industrial base could sustain the pressure on America's munitions stockpiles. But then, the rising tensions with Iran forced the United States to deploy the same categories of munitions that were already under pressure from the war in Ukraine. The problem isn't that the United States is running out of weapons altogether. The problem is that some of the most important modern weapons for the US are being consumed faster than they can be produced. And among them, one category stands above all others: the air defense interceptor missiles. These are the weapons that protect military bases, aircraft carriers, allied cities, and frontline troops from incoming missiles, drones, and air attacks on America. In the Iran conflict, America used Patriot batteries to defend American bases and regional allies in UAE, Qatar, and other allies countries in the Middle East. THAAD interceptors were activated against the ballistic missile threats from the Iran. Naval vessels launched Standard missiles to protect forces and partners across the region. And America's allies in the Gulf, such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, also relied heavily on these systems to defend themselves against the Iranian missiles and the drone attacks. Which means the same limited American munitions stockpile was now being consumed across two separate conflicts: Ukraine and the Middle East. And that's when the real American munition crisis started becoming worse. Because these are not the ordinary munitions. They are among the most sophisticated and the advanced missile system in the US arsenal. Take Tomahawks, precision-guided munitions, THAAD interceptors, Patriot missiles, SM-3s and SM-6 missiles. These weapons are the shield that protects military bases, warships, critical infrastructure, and allied nations from the incoming missiles. And without them, even the most advanced military can become vulnerable to the sustained attacks. The problem is that these advanced munitions are not produced in massive quantities. They are complex, expensive, and require long manufacturing cycles. For example, a Patriot interceptor costs millions of dollars and cannot be replaced overnight. Production lines are expanding, yet the demand has often moved faster than the current production output. While for the THAAD inventories, the reproduction cycle can stretch into years rather than months, reaching the timelines until 2029 or even until 2030. And the urgency has become so significant that the Pentagon has now sought support from the America's automotive manufacturing sectors to help expand production capacity for these munitions. And these are precisely the weapons that America would need not just against Iran but also in the Taiwan-China conflict in the future. But defense is only half of the equation here, because in any conflict in the Middle East or in the Indo-Pacific with China, the United States must also be able to strike back. And that is possible only with the long-range precision weapons such as the ATACMS the Precision Strike Missile, and the JASM Cruise Missile. These weapons are designed to destroy enemy airfields, radar systems, command centers, missile launchers, and logistics hubs from the hundreds of miles away. And in the modern warfare, they are often among the first weapons used and therefore among the first munition inventories to be depleted as well. Despite all the pressure of the shortage of munition stockpile, one reality still remains unchanged, which is that the United States military has demonstrated extraordinary operational effectiveness in its recent conflicts. From the sustained operations in the Venezuela to precision strike and missile defense engagement against Iran-linked forces, to continuous naval operations against the Houthis in the Red Sea. American forces have shown a level of coordination, precision, and a combat executions that remains unmatched in modern warfare. On the contrary, unlike the United States, China has not engaged in a large-scale modern conflict in decades. Its last major war against Vietnam in 1979 was a costly and a strategically challenging experience that exposed serious Chinese war operational limitations at that time. And this does not mean China is weak. In fact, China has spent years modernizing its military precisely to avoid repeating the same history. And for the United States, what the recent wars have revealed is not a collapse of American power, but a window of vulnerability for China, which means that for a limited period of time, the United States will be hoping for something else as well. Time. Time for production lines to recover, time for inventories to be restored, time for tensions in the Middle East to remain contained, and most importantly, time to ensure that no major crisis erupts in the Indo-Pacific before these American critical stockpiles return to their levels that the Pentagon believes is necessary to counter China in the Pacific. Because the question facing America today is not whether it can fight a major war. The question is whether the United States can restore its depleted munition inventories before China decides the time is right to move on towards the Taiwan Strait.